It's not about what you have. It's about who you have. It's not about where you live. It's about how you live. And it's not about what you do. It's about why you do it. Welcome to the Momentasize Podcast. Today, I've got a guest on here. We met on social media, actually. It shows you the power of social media. He's got an $8 million portfolio that's allowed him to become financially free. And then he's now going in and doing a ton of really cool tech stuff related to real estate. Without further ado, please help me welcome Cody Tuma to the podcast.
Thanks, man. Happy to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate you coming on. Pretty crazy, right? Like I introed, being able to go on social media. We got connected on that, and now we've been able to create a good relationship. We're even going to do a business venture together. Shows you the power of getting out, being an entrepreneur, and going on social media just right there. But for people who don't know Cody Tuma, give us a little origin story, and we'll get rocking from there.
Yeah, 100%, man. So I grew up here in Bend, Oregon, and I kind of stumbled into being a real estate agent. Didn't know what I wanted to do outside of college, and a family friend was a realtor, and I was like, hey, man, like if she can do it, I could probably do this, and until I figure out what else I want to do with my life. So I got my real estate license and started doing that for a little bit, and grinded it out. Was a top agent, for quite a while, and then discovered real estate investing and enjoyed that quite a bit more. Did a fix and flip, then got into like infill development projects, and then that led me into commercial real estate and just some other opportunities that I'm working on now.
Yeah. What's the portfolio look like in that $8 million? What's the portfolio look like? What assets do you hold? What assets do you like?
Yeah. So right now it's a warehouse that I've got out in Wisconsin. It's about a $5 million or so building. And then the property that I have that I'm getting ready to Airbnb, it's probably around like 2.5 or so $million valuation on that. And then about a $750,000 spec that I'm working on. Not sure if I'm going to keep that or if I'm going to sell that off, but that's about what that consists of.
One of the things I loved about you when I met you, the entrepreneurial spirit we connected on quickly, but also what I liked is your ability when you saw an opportunity, like the amount of ground up you did, right? When you saw an opportunity, how quickly you were able to create processes to then scale. I remember talking to you, like the ground up component sort of fell into your lap. You're like, hey, I can get creative here. I can build from the ground up. I can sell a good one. And then next thing you know, one went well and boom, you're doing like 10 in a row.
100%.
I really like that about you. It's the way your mind works. Talk to us a little bit about just how that is and how that's evolved, because you've been able to do a lot very quickly.
Yeah. I think just, it's kind of like a blessing and a curse for me. Like when I want to dive into something, I probably spend a little bit too much time like analyzing it and like developing like a process and a system around it. But once I get that system and that process rolling, then it's like, okay, I've got like the things that are in place to actually, develop this and scale it further. And, at times it holds me back a little bit because I probably spend too much time, developing these systems. But when I get it rolling and I've got something going good, then it allows me to scale like I did on those 10 projects, that I did within like the first year.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty badass. I have another friend who is in Hawaii, and he's like, he's similar to you he's a process guy. He's a scale guy. And he's like, hey, yeah, I'm going to get into the ground up game. I was like, how many are you going to do? He's like, I think we're going to shoot for like 30. I'm like, wow. 30 in 1 year? It's taken me a while to get there. So,
sure.
I think that having those processes and those systems, it's a big advantage.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the real estate side, you got into the agent before that. And then what made you go from being an agent saying, hey, I'm helping people buy real estate to actually investing in real estate?
Yeah, I would say it probably began with me listening to podcasts, listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast. I would just start to listen to these investors that, they're making these big checks on these fix and flip things. I was like, man, like that sounds super interesting, but I don't really know anything about construction. I don't really know like how I would do that. And then I ended up taking a listing from a client who couldn't sell this property. It was like a kind of distressed property. He had some troubled renters in there that he couldn't get rid of. And, he's like, Cody, can you help me list this? And so I listed it, and we actually got it under contract, and then ended up finding out during the inspections that it had all these problems. It had, mold, the roof needed to get replaced. The septic system needed to get replaced, like all these problems. And the buyer backs out, and the seller is just desperate at this point. He's like, Cody, I've got to get rid of this property. Do you know anyone that would just cash me out on this thing? Like, can you put it out to any investor friends you know? So at the time, I put it out there to just some investors I knew, and it's a manufactured home, and not a lot of investors want to mess with manufactured homes. And this one guy, he was like, hey, why don't you tell your seller, I'll give him 90 90 grand for it. And I was like, dude, we were asking like 215, 225. Like, I don't think he's going to go for it, but I mean, I guess I'll present it to him. So I call him up and I say, hey, you know, we here's this deal. You know, this investor wants to pick it up for 90 grand. And, you know, what do you want to do with it? And he's like, well, let me think about it. And so I was like, okay, sounds good. I'm like, well, shoot, he's got to think about it. Why don't I just, you know, tell him I'll pick it up for 100 grand. And I don't really know anything about construction or anything like that, but I probably figured out there's probably enough margin there that I could figure it out. So ended up picking up that property and made every mistake that I could possibly make. You know, contractors screwing me on a bunch of different things. I had to, you know, DIY a bunch of things, but I got the project done. And even going way over budget on things, I still walked away with 50 grand profit. And I was like,
what'd you pick it up for?
I picked it up for 100 grand.
Yeah. So you did. He thought about it.
And I got a hard money loan to basically carry that, because I didn't have 100 grand at the time, dude. Like, I was, you know, newer into, you know, being a realtor. I was making okay money being a realtor, but I had just bought a house. I didn't have that money lying around. So I had to get a hard money loan on that. So,
and then boom. So you bought it for 100, put 50 into it and sold it for.
Yeah. So I bought it for 100. I put probably, I don't remember the exact number that I put into it, but it was enough that I ended up walking away with around a $50,000.
You made 50.
Profit.
Okay. Yeah. So you made 50 and then boom, you're like, okay, wait a second here.
Yeah. I was like, dude, I got to sell a lot of houses to make $50,000 in, you know, commissions. I was like, dude, like, how do I find more of these opportunities? And I started looking on MLS to see if I could find any distressed houses. And I was like, dude, I don't really see anything that the numbers pencil on this. There's some lots. I see some lots on here. And this area that I picked up this property, you know, there's not a lot of other people doing things here. Maybe I should check out this area and see if I can find some lots. And the lots I was finding, you know, we're up there in price. And I was like, dude, I'm going to go off market. I'm just going to just start this off market campaign and just like blanket that whole area in marketing to try and, you know, do direct to seller marketing to get some lots, and ended up picking one up. And that was the first spec house I ended up doing.
Boom. Let's unpack that a little bit. So you were you knew an area that you liked.
Yeah.
You just said you got success. You identified an area, a neighborhood, a couple neighborhoods that you liked. You looked on the MLS. You're like, there's nothing I really like. So you started going off market and going direct to seller. What kind of off market were you doing? Mailers, call-in? What were you doing?
Yeah, all the above.
Door knocking?
I wasn't door knocking because no one was at the lot.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So there was nobody on.
That's a stupid question. Okay, so
but yeah, so I started calling these guys, right? And so I pulled a list. I think I used like PropStream or something to like pull the list of these properties that were in the area, and ended up calling this guy, and him and his brother had owned it. And he actually forgot he had owned it, right? Like, the guy lived down in Mexico. He was like checked out, and they'd had it forever. And I was like, hey, you know, would you be interested in selling your lot potentially? You know, I'm an investor in the area. You know, I'd like to buy it. And he was like, yeah, I mean, I kind of forgot I had it. Let me check with my brother and
they inherited probably or something like that.
Probably something like that. And he's like, yeah, let me check with my brother. I'll get back to you. And checks with his brother, and the brother's like, yeah, I don't care. Like, let's just get rid of it. We're not doing anything with it. We're never going to do anything with it. And so, yeah, we agreed to $90,000. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, this will work for me. But this was right when COVID was happening. And then COVID, like, all of a sudden, like, everything's shutting down, like Disneyland shutting down, the NBA shutting down. I'm like, shit, if those companies are shutting down, this is the real deal. We got some problems here. I don't know if I want to dump like, you know, $500,000 into building a house right now. And so I kind of pumped the brakes on that. And I told him, I was like, hey, dude, like, I don't know if I could proceed with this purchase right now. I got to think about some things. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, dude, I totally get it. World's going to hell. I get it, man. And so I thought about it, and I was like, dude, like, I'm a risk taker. Like, I'm just going to, you know, just pitch this guy that, you know, how about I just, you know, build the house on it. And I don't pay you until after I sell the house. And then I'll give you an extra 10 grand. So I'll give you 100 grand, you know, on it. And worst case scenario, dude, if I go belly up, you keep the house. It's a win-win. He's like, done. Yeah. Okay. Sure. So the lot went into my name, and I didn't spend $1 on the lot. Like, it was in my company's name. We built the house on it and just kind of had this agreement. And as soon as I listed it on MLS, before we even broke ground or pulled permits on it, I had a full price offer. Boom,
baby. Yeah, because that window of COVID was like fear, March, and then all of a sudden, come like June-ish, things started to pick back up. So you went with your gut on that one. And
the timing was perfect. Like, a lot of things in life are luck and timing. And, Yeah. On this one, I think it was a little bit of luck and timing for sure.
Yeah. And creativity, right? I think that sometimes we like the biggest thing in investing in general and entrepreneurship is being able to see what others don't see, or being able to look at things creatively and pivot. Robert Kiyosaki, a guy I really like, he always says, there's not just two sides to a coin. There's three sides. There's the right, the wrong, and the middle. And if you can stand on the edge and look at both sides or find ways to see the whole perspective, you can create something good. Like you did. You said, hey, I'm not going to go put cash out. I'm going to give these guys, I'm going to create a win-win situation here where I don't have to put cash out for the lot. They agreed to 90. I'm going to actually give them $100,000.
Yeah.
And now I don't have to, I get the property deeded over to me. It's called land subordination, just so everybody knows. I'm going to go build it, create a win-win for everybody. And boom, like you said, you had a pre-sale because you're in the market. You already had a pre-sale before you even ever had to get started. So that's a good first ground up one, man.
Yeah, 100%. And then, by the time the house was built, it was worth like 150 to 200 more than I had it under contract for. I was like, dude, I should have kept it.
Yeah.
I should have kept that one.
I think every real estate investor, they're always like, oh, if only I could have kept it, But
100%.
Hey, sometimes the thing on that one is like, sometimes you just can't even look back. It's just whatever you need to do to move the money forward, right? And just keep rotating it out. So that's the first ground up deal. And then you're like, hey, this works. You started doing more land deals, or what were you doing from there?
Yeah. So from there, I was like, as soon as I got that one under contract at full price, it was like, okay, this is like the real deal here. I got to buy up every lot that I can possibly find. So then I was like looking at even ones on MLS, and ones in MLS were like, 20, 30 more than I picked this one up for at 90. But I was like, dude, the numbers are so good right now. It doesn't matter. So as soon as it hit the MLS, I'm buying it. I'm reaching off market. So I was just picking up every lot that I could possibly find in there.
Yeah.
And the market was just moving so quickly. A lot of these property owners, didn't even realize that the market was appreciating so much, and they were sitting on these lots for, ever. And they were like, I'm never going to do anything with it. You want to pay me that much for it? Sure. And so it just was like just a total win.
Yeah. Complete win. Now I have a question, because I think a lot of people think if they're going to get into the ground up game that they have to know a lot about the building process, swing the hammers themselves, et cetera. Did you have to build any of those homes yourself?
Yeah. See, dude, I'm not like you, dude. I'm not out in the field, swinging the hammer. No, do you see these nails? No, dude, I'm not
me too. We're the same. I'm a business builder. I know the business side of building, but so you didn't have to go build any of it. I mean, what would you, if you just rated, I'm just curious, if you rated your construction knowledge of, like, if you had to go build the house yourself, 1 to 10, what was your construction knowledge to do that?
I mean, I know a lot more now, but back then, dude, maybe it was like a 2 or a 3. I didn't really hardly know anything, but I knew that if I could like hire a builder and get their number, like, I was just thinking real simple math here, right? Mm-hmm. I was like, I know what I'm in the lot. If I can get the builder to give me the number, what it's going to cost to build the thing, get all those costs, and just put those two things together, and then find out what the comps are going for in the area, then it was easier to me, honestly, than flipping a house. Because I think with flipping a house, like in my mind, I was thinking, on that last project I did, there was a lot of unknowns, right? The more we dove into it, the more crap we uncovered. I was like, oh, great. Now I got to replace this. I got to replace this. Oh, the roof needs replaced. Or, oh, we got to rip out all the floors now. There's moisture damage. Like, so I was like, man, there's all these unknowns. But what I liked about the new construction is it just seemed like it was just kind of, there was not really as many unknowns. And I got the price from my builder to build it all up front, and I knew what I could sell it for. So I really liked that aspect of new construction. Yeah,
you knew the business side, and I pitched the same thing, right? I actually truly believe that building a project from the ground up is easier than doing a really difficult remodel. Like you said, you don't know what's behind those walls. You don't know where you're going to get into.
100%.
And so it's kind of funny to me, because if you learn the blueprint of how to unlock a piece of land, and you know the numbers behind it, the permitting process, and you hire a builder, then you can really do some good damage. The only downside is the timelines take a little bit longer, right? So on a remodel, it might be 3 months turnaround, where you're talking 6, 8, 12 months, right? So that's the only downside. But typically the upside is also much bigger. So if you're going to make 30 to 50 on a flip, you're going to make 80 to 100 on the ground up game. So that time it takes more time, but it's kind of worth it, because, you got a brand new product, and the margins typically, if you do it right and you do your numbers right, which you knew, then it works out pretty dang good.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So then you just started, you got that teed up. What I like about that, and why I asked that question, is I think sometimes people close their mind, right? They're like, hey, I'm too fearful to do the ground up side of it. I don't know much about it. But like you said, you don't need to what you need to learn, what people need to learn and know is the blueprint, the investment, the numbers, and then you can hire the experts, right? You can hire the builder who's the specialty, who does all the work. And that goes from the general contractor down to the excavator, the concrete guy. You don't need to know how to do it. You just need to know how to hire the people that are specialists. And then what you really have to focus on is the numbers, being I call it the business builder, the business side of building, right? And that's how you can then template, because that's what really matters. And that's what's scalable. If you were to go and try to do that same thing, and now you're like, hey, I'm going to save money by doing my own excavation, foundation, framing, etc. Well, guess what? You can only be at one place at one time. So you can never scale. You could never do 10 projects in 1 year if you're doing it all yourself. So I think that, people they shouldn't close their mind just because they feel like they don't have the knowledge. You can hire people to do the knowledge work.
Yeah. 100%, man. If you can find a good deal, like the rest will come, right? Like if the deal is good enough, you'll find, the investor, you'll find the money for it. And it's just all about putting that good deal together and surrounding yourself with the people that can help you make it happen.
How long do you think it took you to sharpen your saw, to figure out and analyze what is a good deal and what isn't a good deal? And what do you think the reps, the way to do that is? Because I think sometimes it's even like, if you're getting started, you're like, how do I even really navigate what is a good deal or what isn't a good deal?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it's just putting in the reps, right? The more deals you look at and the more deals you underwrite and analyze, the better you'll get at it. The first one, you probably won't have a clue what you're looking at. So then, just do your research, educate yourself, listen to podcasts. I mean, for me, I basically got my real estate education in podcasts.
Yep.
Like I didn't really have a mentor in real estate. For me, it was just all, listening to someone smarter than me on podcasts. And that's just kind of like how I really got a lot of my education. And then just build my own spreadsheet, running the numbers and just seeing if it pencils, and talking to contractors, talking to builders, talking to sellers, and just putting those numbers together and seeing if it makes sense and if there's a profit at the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, very true. There's a couple little, like in the ground up game, there's a couple like quick little formulas I always tell people about, the 20% rule. If you're looking at land, it's always like, how do I actually value a piece of land? And there's depending on what market you're in, but typically I like to say the 20% rule, meaning that you can figure out, just from simple research, you can figure out what a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot house is going to be worth when it's done, right? You always have to begin with the end in mind. So you can figure out, hey, this is going to be worth $300,000 when it's done. Then I would use the 20% rule to see what I would be willing to pay, maximum what I'd be willing to pay for the land. So I would use the 20% rule. If the finished house is going to be worth $300,000, then I would want to look for lots that I could buy in the $60,000 range. Because I know that using that as a back of the napkin, I know that gives me enough margin to then have a builder come in and build it. And then I'll have ability to have a good margin in there. But that 20% rule, that's the way that I would start hunting. Because then you can very quickly filter out things that aren't going to work, right? Because I think that you have to put all these reps in, learn the shortcuts from listening to podcasts. I just gave you guys the tip on how to do it on the ground up game, baby. And then just start getting all the reps in and looking more. Like the more you look at an area, the more familiar you're gonna be. And it might feel really foreign at first, but now, like if a deal comes across my desk, I can, in like 3 seconds, I can do the back of the napkin and know if I'm going to pursue it or not, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. One of the other things I learned when I was first getting started is like I would do analysis by paralysis. So I would a deal would come in and I would try to analyze it, and I'd spend 2 days about it, talk to my wife about it and my best friend and my mom and everybody. I'm like, is this a good deal? Then I'm finally ready to make an offer on it and the deal's gone, right? Because you're just so deep in it. So then I made a rule for myself. I'm like, okay, I got to analyze enough to be quick. And then I've got to be able to not waste too much time, because the only thing we have, the one resource we don't get back is time. So I'm like, I'll do back of the napkin. Then once it's tied up, you have due diligence period. Then I'll go deep. But that way I started not wasting my own time, spending all this time on a deal that I don't even control yet.
Yeah,
right?
Dude, I could not agree with you more there. I can't tell you how many deals that I missed out on early on because this is on market stuff that I was looking at, and the on market stuff, obviously it's going to sell, much faster. And I'm looking at these on market deals and I think it's a good deal, but then I'm like, man, let me do all my underwriting on it. Let me see if I can, get a hard money lender on it and all that stuff, where I should just lock it up and then do all this due diligence phase, find out from the county, restrictions and stuff on the zoning and all that stuff. And by the time, I do all that analysis before I lock it up, now the property's already sold to someone else and it's gone pending, because the good deals go fast, especially on market. That's why I really like off market stuff. But the on market stuff, if it's a good deal, either it's gonna, it's gonna get picked up, by every other investor. It's gonna go way over. So you gotta, act quickly, especially on that stuff.
I agree 100%. Don't waste your own time. Hey, let's talk a little bit about the off market side, because you've had a lot of success finding off market deals, and you were having so much success with it that you actually created a software called Fuel Point.
Yeah.
Right. Talk to us a little bit about Fuel Point, why you created it, and how it works.
Yeah. Probably one of the biggest reasons is, I was doing that whole spec game, right? And I was making a bunch of money doing it. And I knew that I was going to have this big tax liability. Yeah. I was like, dude, this is going to be a big check I'm going to have to write to Uncle Sam if I don't figure something out here. I was like, dude, I made a lot of money, but I don't really want to pay half of it to taxes. Mm-hmm. And I heard some smart people on some podcasts doing something called a cost segregation study on commercial real estate. And I was like, okay, this sounds interesting, and they're not paying taxes and they're doing it legally. And this is how people like Trump are doing that.
Yeah.
Okay. I need to look into this more. And so then I started looking into that more, and started looking for some opportunities, and ended up finding a wholesaler with a deal that I liked, and ended up picking that up. But I paid the dude a really fat assignment fee. And I was like, dude, the deal works and it pencils, but it's what if I could control my own deal flow, generating my own off-market commercial opportunities? And so that's really kind of where the inception of Fuel Point came from, was, how can I, generate my own off-market deal flow and have a system that kind of, processes all those deals, into our team. And we realized internally that was working super well. We were trying to pursue storage, and we got 60 opportunities within a few months of, building this tool. And we're like, holy cow, I bet there's other investors that could benefit from a system like this. And so then we kind of did a soft beta test on it, brought some friends in that wanted to kind of be a part of it. And we were getting results for them too. And one of them was in mobile home parks. We were getting, results for him too there. And I was like, okay, we gotta really package this thing together and get other investors on it, and, really have a platform that we can offer to other individuals. And that's really what Fuel Point is just helping investors get as many off-market opportunities in front of them as possible.
Yeah. I mean, what a powerful tool, right? If now all of a sudden, because the MLS, although it's good, but really once a deal goes and gets listed, like you said, you've either got to be so sharp that you can make such a strong offer, you can go quick. There's just a lot of competition, right? And so if you can find a good reliable way to go and now hunt these off-market deals, I mean, it's a phenomenally strong tool. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
What was it like developing a software like that? What were the ins and outs? How hard was it? And just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, I had done other ventures in the software space that weren't quite, didn't quite take off, but it gave me the experience that I needed to work with developers. I'm a techie person. I know a little bit about kind of the back end code stuff, but not enough to full on develop my own software platform. Yeah, exactly. Just enough to know to look at it, to know if something's going to work right or whatnot. But I had gotten the experience of working with overseas developers and how to manage a remote team and how to effectively communicate with them and get them to deliver quality results for what you're looking for. So luckily that experience helped me developing out Fuel Point. But without that prior experience, it definitely would have been more difficult. But yeah, I mean, it's a process, but like anything, it's just go start and do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I've seen the software. I think it's a phenomenal for anyone who really wants to get real good, strong deals where they're not competing against a ton of people. I think it is just an amazing platform. So anybody that wants to do it, if you're a wholesaler or already an investor and you want to skip the wholesaler component, you said, it sounds like it was really designed for those investors who are actively out there, rather than pay a 6-figure wholesale fee or 25 G's each time they're going to get a deal. Now you can pay for this software. You can access it yourself. All that challenging component of getting those off-market deals has now been systemized, and the platform's there. So you can essentially have this wholesale machine working for you without having to pay 25 G's each time you're going to pay it.
Exactly. And you build out with Fuel Point. We actually build it out for you. You get your own lead manager that manages your account. but you control your own deal flow, right? And your own deal funnel. And the people that we're talking to are experienced investors, people that, have $50 million portfolios that they're struggling finding good opportunities. They're just used to working with their relationship with their brokers, but their brokers aren't bringing them good enough deals. And so they need more opportunities. So we're working with people like them to go to these mom and pop storage facilities, mobile home parks, RV parks, and bringing them these good off-market opportunities that they didn't otherwise know about. And they're saving tons of money because they're off market. They're not dealing with brokers. They're not dealing with wholesalers. And then we work with people on the other side of the spectrum who are maybe wanting to get into the asset class. Maybe they're newer and they know that, storage is a good investment they want to get into. They know that RV parks could be good or mobile home parks could be good. And they understand that if you can find a good enough deal, then it's going to be easy to, raise the capital to JV up with someone on that, or even wholesale it out yourself. So that way you can get some more capital to take more down deals of your own. And we've got experienced operators that are a part of Fuel Point. So on these experienced operators, if someone finds, a newer investor finds a good enough deal, like anyone in our community, is going to want to JV with you if it's something that, makes sense. And then you can partner up with an experienced operator. They might even give you, a finder's fee on that. And you can potentially even get equity in the deal. So it all starts with finding a good enough deal, right? You find a good enough deal, just like I found on that land deal, my very first deal. I knew it was a good enough deal, and I kind of the rest of the components, fell in place.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, in every single transaction, there's the seller, there's the buyer, and then there's the deal maker. And Fuel Point really, really is it seems like it's the rocket fuel to really make that happen.
100%.
So you guys got to go check out Fuel Point. Just a little plug for Fuel Point.
Definitely.
Let's talk a little bit. Now we've got we found a great deal on Fuel Point. It's off market. So if we're usually used to talking to our broker, there's an existing relationship, broker to broker communication. They start into the negotiation. Hey, what's the problem here? What do you need? How do we solve it? Blah, 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 blah. How do we, once we find that off market deal, what's the best way to get a hold of that owner? And what are some tactics that you think work well, don't work well?
Yeah.
Because it could be a little bit intimidating to go and try to really start building rapport with this seller.
Yeah, 100%. So, the best way, kind of like we had paid a coach to teach us something that was essentially with free tip for your listeners out there. They wouldn't even necessarily have to use Fuel Point, but Fuel Point's going to make their job 1,000 times easier. Yeah. But if someone's like, I just want to kind of dip my toes in the water and reach out to these sellers, a lot of people are like, how do I even find these sellers, right? Like, how do I find these self-storage facilities? How do I find these mobile home parks? And honestly, it's as simple as just going to Google Maps and typing in, self-storage facilities, say Bend, Oregon on Google Maps. And then you get a whole list of properties there, right? And then from there, it's as simple as just calling that number that is on the Google listing there and asking to speak to the owner. Yeah. A lot of times you're going to get the manager. A manager is going to be the gatekeeper. They don't want you to speak to the owner. It's like, why do you want to speak to the owner? Whatever you have to say, you can say it to me. So, it's figuring out how to get past that gatekeeper.
What's the best way to get past the gatekeeper? Come on, give me some tips and tricks.
Yeah. So, sometimes you simply just can't get past the gatekeeper, right? No matter how hard you try. But, just different, just your tonality of your voice and how you're talking to them, and just kind of building a little bit of rapport with that manager. And then, kind of like, oh yeah, by the way, is the owner in, what days of the week, is the owner typically in, trying to see like ways that you can kind of just navigate around that to get them to give you a little bit of information. And, by building maybe a friend, they will, pass along that information. But sometimes they just won't do it. They're just way too defensive, worried about, why do you need the owner's contact information? Are you trying to buy it? If you buy it, like, am I going to lose my job? Which most likely they are, right? Because it's probably a lot of these facilities are mismanaged. So, first thing that's going to happen is either, replace them with someone more capable, or just, manage all remote and eliminate, the manager altogether. But so getting through that manager, even when we're calling these businesses, a lot of times the manager says, oh, we don't want to sell. We're not interested. The owner doesn't want to talk to you. We don't care. We don't care what the manager says. So we're going to skip trace the owner of these properties. And there's a variety of different ways that you skip trace them. But most of these businesses are held in LLCs, like most of these like storage facilities, mobile home parks, they're held in LLCs, right? So now we have to figure out how to skip trace an LLC. It's a little bit more difficult than just skip tracing like a an individual,
Real quick, what's skip trace for somebody who doesn't know?
Yeah. So skip tracing is essentially researching the owner of the property and getting their contact information. So phone number, email, mailing address, that sort of stuff. That's skip tracing. And it can be, daunting, right? There's so many different methods and ways that you can use to skip trace. There's some free resources out there. There's some paid resources out there. And skip tracing like a residential address is much easier, right? Because if you go to the county records, typically it'll say, it's owned by, the individual person's name. And then you can just look up that individual person's name and find their contact information. But with these businesses, they're held in LLCs or trusts or whatever. So it's a little bit more difficult. Yeah. So, an easy kind of free way how you could find out who owns these LLCs is simply going to the state registrar's website. So, if you're in Oregon, you'd go to the Oregon Secretary of State's website, you'd search the entity, the LLC's name in there, and then you'd pull up the articles of organization, and it's going to have listed out members that are a part of the LLC there, registered agents. And then, if there's multiple members or registered agent, you're going to research and skip trace those individual members there and find their contact information. And some are harder to find than others. So that's definitely the best way to go about it. Boom.
I hope you guys are listening there, because Cody just dropped the bomb on how to make it happen, literally how to go and find a good off-market deal, use Fuel Pump for that, but then have to go even deeper and start to reach out to these owners, and I think that sometimes with that, the first call, like it's persistence, just like anything, right? It's persistence. You might have this great deal, you do your skip tracing, and you're getting blocked. You can't get past the gatekeeper, but staying persistent and consistent with the follow-up and communication on those, that to me seems like it's probably a huge key, because they might not be ready to sell today, but you never know what happens 6 months from now. They might be ready to sell 6 months from now. It sounds like the platform also allows you to track all the communication, et cetera, on what you're doing. So you're able to set that consistency, right? It's like very rarely are you going to reach out and get, like, have it be so simple, you're going to sell on the first time. No, it's probably going to be a change. If they don't want to sell right now, it's going to be a change in event. They're sick of it. They need some money. Something happened. And then all of a sudden, now Cody and his team, they're top of mind, and boom.
100%.
Right? Would you say most of it's
very rarely are we going to call up, a mobile home park or a storage facility that on that first call, they're going to agree exactly to the terms and the numbers you want, and you're going to sign the paperwork right then and there. No, 90% of the time, they're going to say they want too much for that property, or they're simply not interested. And that's fine, right? But the whole point of Fuel Point is building this deal flow funnel. So you've got all of these leads essentially in your pipeline that we've got in Fuel Point, and you have a lead manager that handles all this follow-up for you. So they're going to consistently reach out to all of these businesses that said they wanted too much or said they weren't interested. And we want to stay exactly like you said, top of mind. So when life does happen, they decide, hey, I actually do want to take that fishing trip. I'm sick of worrying about the business, or, the kids don't want to take over the business anymore. Let's just sell. Like we're over this. We want to make sure that we're top of mind. So that way they think of you and they call you up and say, hey, Dirk, you've been bugging me for the last 8 months. I'm sick of your calls. I'm just going to sell you this business.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's that persistence, right? It's planting that seed and then just continuing that work. I appreciate that. Thanks for dropping that knowledge bomb as well for people. Go and listen back to that. Like if you want to get in the game, and like right now you don't have the capital, but you have time and you're ready to sharpen your saw, go and get that deal. Learn how to analyze a deal, then put all the work that it takes behind it to go and get it tied up. I'm telling you, if you have a good deal, a truly good deal, not this BS stuff.
It's gotta be a good deal.
Yeah. If you have a good deal, all the rest of the pieces of the puzzle will come. You can hit up Cody or myself if you got a great deal.
Anyone's got a good deal, hit up Dirk and I.
Yeah. So thanks for dropping the bombs on that. I want to pivot away a little bit from, Fuel Point, the business side. Let's talk social media, talk about the journey there. I mean, you've built up a great following there, and you did it very systematically, again, in the Cody Tuma way, right? Talk to us about social media, the benefits, why you do it.
Yeah. Part of the biggest reason is I started seeing these other influencers who, had essentially started with like being real estate investors, and, they're making okay money, decent money as an investor. And then they started building this following, this audience, and it just really just amplified their next venture, or, they started, a syndication or a fund. And with that audience, now they're able to raise tons of capital for that because they're a name and they're like a brand and people trust them and they want to invest with them. They want to do deals with them. Or, as an influencer, you can, have some sort of, offering, whether it's education or coaching or whatever, that people will come to you. And when I originally started, I thought that I would actually use my following to, do a syndication or a fund. And that's really originally why I wanted to build my following. And so I didn't, wasn't at the time, I wasn't super comfortable talking on camera. I hate hearing my own voice. I hate being on camera. That's like not me. I don't like letting the whole world see what I'm doing. Like that wasn't what I wanted to do, but I just had saw like how social media transformed some of these other investors' space. And I was just like, okay, I just have to do it. I just have to just go out there and do it. So I started researching, okay, what's this guy doing? What's his style look like? What kind of equipment is this guy doing? What kind of mic is that? What kind of camera is this guy using? So then, I kind of got into a little bit of the analysis paralysis where I spent too much time, researching the equipment and all that. Yeah. But, eventually, after, doing that research and creating systems and processes, I started just shooting content. And, if people go back and look on my Instagram page, like my first stuff was pretty bad.
Yeah, I think of course it is. It's the first rep, right? So,
like the first quite a few were pretty bad.
I know.
Yeah, and they eventually started to get better and better, right? The more reps you put in, just like underwriting a deal, right? The more reps you put in underwriting the deal, the easier, you can analyze and determine, like you said, back of the napkin, you can tell in 30 seconds if it's a good deal. And just like recording content and stuff, the more you do it, the more reps that you're putting in, the better that you're going to get at it, and the more natural you're going to be. And so that's kind of like what it was for my journey, was just kind of learning from what other people were doing, seeing what other people were putting out content wise, seeing what was working, what wasn't working, and just kind of taking my social media game to that level and just kind of blew it up from there.
Yeah. I mean, and you did a really good job. It was a quick 6-month period. I had a similar, when I like a couple years, maybe a year ago, I started getting into social media. And for me, it was, I had a business and I met Daniel Kong at a small mastermind. And I was, for 6-7 years, like, social media is a distraction. I'm focused on building my thing. And somebody said something like, hey, if you have a business and you're not doing social media, like, what are you doing? Yeah. And that hit me. And I hadn't really thought about it at all before then, which is kind of silly if you think about it. I hadn't thought about that in general. And I started to that planted a seed for me. And then I started to do a little research, very similar to doing a little research. And I'm very into, if I want to learn something, if something's sitting with me and I want to learn something, I'm going to pay whoever's doing a good job of that. I'm going to pay them money so I can fast track my knowledge. So that's exactly what I did. I asked Daniel Kong again. I'm like, hey, I got a tax problem at this end of the year. I got to spend some money. What should I do? He's like, get into this coaching program. I got into the Ryan Pineda coaching program. Don't wholesale, don't flip or anything like that. But I went to this boot camp that he did on social media, and it was like a 2-day deep dive. And I was just taking all these notes, and I started to see the power of creating that personal brand and what it could do. And then just like you, like, it's very awkward trying to initially start making videos, like to put yourself out there to do it is initially like hilarious. If you watch like the first ones that come out, right? Even when you're filming it, you're like, I cannot believe, even today, sometimes I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this right now.
Seriously.
But I gotta get it done. And then slowly but surely, right? Like slowly but surely, you keep getting better. You keep putting out there, you keep providing value. And it went for me from, hey, this is a distraction to, hey, this is a tool where I can connect with all these people, get great, genuine connection. And then about a year later, you start to see the fruits of that, whatever it turns into. I mean, you and I met literally from social media. Yeah. You and I met. Now we're gonna do some great deals together, and we'll probably do millions of dollars of deals together. We would have 100%. Never met if it wasn't through social media. Cody and I are gonna do some ground up together purely from social media, and that's just from the ability of putting it out there. Then all of a sudden we both see each other. You had 2 win-wins together, and boom, you're there. So you never know when you put yourself out there like that, what relationships can be built. And I think that if you're entrepreneurial and you have a business, not doing the social media component, I think, is a really big mistake. And for me, it was for all that time. I'm like, hey, plus on top of that, layer on top of the business connections, think about it. Patrick Bet-David says this in a way that really hit me. He's like, think about it from if I could see my grandfather and like what it was like for him to live his life or build his business, he's like, I would pay millions. He literally, because he has the money, he said, I would pay millions of dollars for that. Well, now if you're entrepreneurial, you're actually creating like generational, you're creating the story of what you're doing and how you're building it for generations to come. So business aside, also tradition for your family, you get to see what it was like as you built it up. So
yeah, 100%. I think Hormozi says that a lot too, right? Like if I could have, like, if like Warren Buffett or Elon Musk would have documented their whole journey, right? Like, that'd be worth just millions of dollars to be able to have access.
Yeah,
to that.
And now he's doing that exact thing. So yeah, I think it's a very powerful tool, and there are negatives to it, right? So you have to think about it. Like, are you using social media as a pure like distraction consumer, or are you producing on it and creating good quality things and creating good relationships that can benefit you in your actual life? Because I do think there are negative sides to it, right? And it's addicting. I will say,
100%.
like, I got to check myself on that stuff because it is an addicting thing. So you got to really watch that, because I've had to like try to really tell myself like, holy cow, all of a sudden now, the craziest part I think about social media is like, I go to open my phone to do something not social media, and I'll literally, my fingers will just scroll and click on the social media. I'm like, whoa, they got me dopamine addicted on this thing.
Dude, their algorithms are so good. I swear, like, I'll have a dream about something and I'll wake up the next day and I'll have an ad for it. It's like it's in my brain or something, dude. I'm like, I was just dreaming about this. How's it on my phone?
Yeah. So there's definitely ups and downs of it, but we wouldn't be sitting here today without. So I think if you're entrepreneurial, just get started, get over the awkwardness piece and just go, because it's worth it. Literally.
Yeah.
Like,
no, dude, 100%. Like, you and I connected on social media. The coach that I hired to teach me everything to know about self-storage, like, he reached out to me on social media because he saw the like presence that I was building on social media. He's like, hey man, like, you're doing great things on social media. Let's connect. And then I saw he had a storage program. And then so I was like, dude, like, you're doing storage. Like, dude, I would love to learn from you on storage. So it's just amazing what the connections that you can build by building a following on social media, what it can do for your personal brand and what it can do for your business. It's huge.
What do you think about like paying for coaching and all that? Like, do you pay for coaching? What do you think about it?
Yeah, 100%. I honestly wish I would have paid for more coaching, like, especially starting out, dude. Like, it would have saved me tons of money, tons of headaches and projects and stuff. Even with social media, dude, to be honest, like, I should have paid someone to teach me like this whole rope with social media, with like all the equipment and stuff. Cause I spent months, dude, like just trying to like figure out what equipment works, what doesn't work. Cause I didn't know how to use any of this stuff, dude. And like, so I was like, dude, like, I guess I'm going to just try and figure it out and research. I'm like, okay, this creator uses this piece of content. And, these guys are talking about this, and, Ryan Pineda uses this, and, this creator uses that. And so I spent just too much time, just trying to figure it out rather than just like kind of diving in and doing it, where I should have really just gotten a coach that says, hey, dude, just get this, get that. And, this is the kind of stuff you need to say. Yeah.
Yeah. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on just if I see something that somebody that I want and they're mastering it, any day of the week, I will pay money to make it happen. Now you got to be smart with that, right? Because you could pay for coaching. If you're not going to actually apply it, then it's a waste.
Yeah.
That makes no sense to do it, right? Then it's like a complete waste. So you got to really make sure that what you think you want, you actually want, and that you apply what you learn, because otherwise it's a complete waste. I remember I was reflecting on 2023, and the one thing, like, if I look back, I was like, what do I regret about 2023? What was my big lessons? What were the biggest things? And it was like the time that I wasted. I thought back, like, I regretted the time that I wasted, including social media scrolling, etc. And then I started to think like, okay, time is like the one resource that will never, ever get back. Money, abundant. Opportunity, abundant. Time, it's the one thing that's like for our lifetime. We have a finite amount of time. So if I want something, I will take money, which I can create an abundance of, opportunity, which I can create an abundance of, and I will trade that for time every day of the week. That's part of my mission. That's why I even am in the real estate game and why I'm building a real estate empire, is because I'm addicted to the game, but I'm looking to find ways to use opportunity and money to get that time back. Right. So
yeah, 100%. Dude, I like literally, I think the same exact way. And it's just like, you just, time is just such a finite resource. Right. And I think, like you said, like a lot of us, are trying to get into real estate or are in the real estate game. So that way we can have more time, to spend time on the things that we love and enjoy, our hobbies or time with our family or whatnot. So yeah, 100%. And paying for a coach is like a hack, because they've already went through the trials and the tribulations and all that stuff. and they've spent the money making the mistakes and all that stuff. So they can just, tell you what you should or should not do. So yeah, it's 100% worth it.
Yeah, I agree. Couldn't agree more. What about like what I really want to know is if I'm on, like, let's say I'm on back to Fuel Point. Let's say I'm on Fuel Point and I want to use this off market component. Is it good for like any deals? Is it good for like, what is Fuel Point focused on? What's the best way can it filter me? Any deals? Is it the boring business style that you talked about?
Yeah. Like our primary focus really is the self-storage, the mobile home parks, RV parks, and then like your boring businesses like the car washes, the laundromats, and so on and so forth. Like I talked to a guy today that he's really big into marinas, and that's like his asset class.
He buys marinas.
He buys marinas,
and then what?
He does value add on marinas,
rents out the slips or something.
Yeah, so he rents out the slip spaces and stuff on them, and he does value add marinas, right? Like ones that aren't being ran, properly, and go in there and fix the docks and stuff and bring those all up to speed, and then he does his value add play just like on other commercial real estate deals. And I just thought, dude, like there's so many different ways that you can make money in real estate. It's unbelievable. I talked to another guy, this is a couple months ago. He invests in airports, private airports, and he buys those and he does value add plays on airports. I didn't even know that was like an asset class that people were doing, but yeah, dude, it's crazy.
Yeah, that intersection between business and real estate is like a real cool sweet spot, right? Where there's real estate and an operational component to it. If you've mastered those two, like you said, like marinas out, you would never think to get in it, but yeah. I'm sure that niche, he's obviously killing it. And then because it is a niche, you're not going to find a lot of marinas like listed online. So it makes a lot of sense to, hey, if you believe in this niche, like a laundromat niche or marina niche, going and then being able to filter out who owns what and quickly get to them. I mean, there's
100%. And that's what like Fuel Point does so well is we can find all those opportunities, especially for, an investor that's like in this guy's particular situation, like you're saying, marinas, like that's pretty niche, right? Mm-hmm. Like you don't see a ton of those listed, but marinas are probably like, these other mom and pop businesses. So it's been owned in the family for a long time and, they haven't been managing it very well. And maybe they're, nearing the age of retirement and, the kids don't want to take over the business anymore. So, why not, trying to reach out to these owners of these boring businesses and of these, real estate asset classes and, see if there's some opportunity there. And Fuel Point does that so well, right? Like we're able to reach the owners of these businesses to see if they want to sell and present these opportunities to members of Fuel Point.
Boom. Let's pivot and talk like market a little bit. If you're paying attention, there's a lot of fear mongering about interest rates, fear mongering about the future of the economy. We're in an election year. How do you deal with those uncertainties, what's being pushed out, and what's your view on the market? Like, what's your view 2024, 2025, et cetera?
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I don't really want to deal with like interest rates and stuff the way that they're out right now. I do think they're crazy, but I think if you can still find a good deal and it cash flows and it is an asset like storage, which I think is rather recession proof, right? Like Americans love their crap. They always need a place to keep their crap. If the economy goes down and, they lose their house or they need to sell their house and they need to downsize, well, they need a place to put that stuff now that was in that house. So that's why I really like storage. And if you can buy a storage facility on seller finance and get good terms with the seller there, then, it really doesn't matter a whole lot, exactly of what's going on with the economy. So I think, again, it comes down to getting a good deal, right? The economy is going to have, its ups and downs, but, it's time in the market, not timing the market. Like it's impossible to know what exactly the market's going to do when. But if you can get in the market and the longer you're in the market, like we were talking earlier before the podcast about these deals that we wish we would have never sold and, deals we wish we would have kept. And, I think that's almost every investor. You look back historically at what these prices were here in Bend, dude. Can you imagine, if we would have just picked up all these properties, in 2008, 2009, like what they've done, man, it's just insane. So
I was too busy smoking weed in high school, man.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about real estate, dude. It's not even on my radar.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. I think, like for me, I think about it like this. Fear comes from, I think it comes a lot from if you don't have a full strategy or plan behind it. And so I think about like on the ground up game, I try to simplify, push all the fear mongering, all the other stuff away. And I say, okay, as simple as we can put this, it's like demand comes, it's a supply demand game, right? So for the ground up game, we know from a fundamental perspective, whether there's high interest rates, low interest rates, et cetera, the main thing I focus on is like, what's the supply demand? And right now we're 4.5 to 6.5 million units short in the United States from
100%.
a supply side. And the only way we're building about 1 million between both apartments and homes. So the runway of opportunity from a simple supply demand game doesn't matter about the interest rates, doesn't matter about the election year. The fundamentals from a supply demand side, from my perspective, what I can see, what I believe is strong. So I'm going to be in this game. I'm not in it for just this year or next year or whatever. I'm in it for the long haul because I believe that the fundamentals are strong. And it's on top of that, it's one of the human needs. People are always going to need shelter. And so it fits one of their basic human needs. And for me, then only thing that high interest rates do, or the only thing that an election year does, is I just have to sharpen the saw and maybe adjust the strategy. So apartments aren't penciling right now. Okay, we'll do a little positive pivot. Guess what does pencil? Mobile homes, because my cost of unit's much lower, right? So you just have to find positive pivots and maybe pull off the gas pedal a little bit because things are a little tighter, but the fundamentals are still there. We're still in the best game there is. And so being scared, like from a fear mongering side, I think just like, don't worry about it. Get in the game because it's the best game you can be in, and then just let it all unfold how it needs to unfold.
Yeah. But you know, what you're doing, like, you're not just, building to build, right? You're not just, picking, a property and going for it. Like it all comes down to the deal, right? You're still looking at the deal. So at the end of the day, everything starts with the deal. And if it's a good enough deal, and just like when I was doing my specs and I was kind of like trying to, speculate on what's going to happen with COVID and, what happens if interest rates go crazy. I knew when I was doing my underwriting, I was like, dude, like the economy would just have to absolutely massively tank. And in that case, like, we're all screwed at that point. Like we're all in this together. Like if that
you got a different problem then.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, dude, like it's a good enough deal. Like it doesn't really matter what happens. I feel really confident in what I'm doing here that the deal is strong enough. So
yeah, it's risk appetite. You make a really good point there. And we do that on all our projects. We run a pessimistic scenario, a realistic scenario, and then an optimistic scenario. And we say, hey, pessimistically, like worst case, if this happens, what does it look like? Are we going to lose a bunch of money? Are we going to get our money back? Like, what is that going to look like? And what's the probability of a pessimistic? We put a probability. Now, you can't get it exact, but you can get a gut probability of what has to happen for that worst case scenario to happen. Okay, good. Are we okay with that? Okay, sweet. If we're okay with that, probably going to do the deal, right? If everything has to go perfect and we have to hit a home run and then we get like these realistic returns, like that's not a good deal right now that we're going to pull off that deal. So we'll run that pessimistic, realistic, and optimistic. And that's also good because then you can reflect on, do a project diary or an investment diary. Hey, like this is what I thought and this is what happened. Okay, yeah, maybe this pessimistic scenario happened. Okay, at least I got all my money back. Okay, I need to adjust the way I look at these deals, right? And so I think that your risk appetite, you can make a decision, look at it pessimistically, realistically, optimistically, and then decide what your risk appetite is, right? And make it happen. I think the most dangerous thing to do is have your money just, right now it's good to have cash, et cetera. But if you're just sitting on the sideline, you're just getting chomped by inflation. Yeah. I think that's the big hidden tax that nobody really like thinks about. And to me, I think that's the most dangerous thing you can do because your purchasing power is just going to get chomped. And who knows what's going to happen with interest rates, but most likely in the next, we don't know when, because inflation's sticky, probably stay high, might even go up a little bit. But at a certain point, interest rates will come down. And when interest rates come down, that will create a big rush there'll be an asset because interest rates are down, cost of capital is less, housing, real estate, et cetera, will go up again. Yeah.
If you're sitting on the sidelines and you just have cash in your bank account, you are literally losing money. Like you are making no money by leaving that in a bank account. Like at least go buy some treasury bills and at least get some interest on that. Yeah. Like, don't leave it in the bank.
Exactly. And some really smart people I listen to, Ken McElroy, he's talking about comparing today's economy to the 70s when stagflation hit for a period of 10, 11 years, right? And what that looked like. But even in a period of stagflation, again, being in cash is the worst thing you could do. Being in hard assets, being as close to the real raw hard assets that you can be, real estate, gold, silver, stuff that's real hard assets, that's stuff that maybe it's not going to see a huge increase, but that's still a very good place. It's an inflation hedge. It's a good place to have your money because stagflation just eats away at that dollar again, right?
So, yeah, 100%. Even Dave Ramsey's saying to buy real estate, man. This guy's like as conservative as they come, and he's saying buy real estate.
Yeah, because it's a great place to put the capital. It's a great place to put the capital. Okay, so we touched on the market. What about you? What's next for you? You just launched Fuel Point. That's going great. What's next for Cody? What are you looking at doing? What opportunities do you see?
Yeah, for sure. That's a really great question. So for me right now, I'm really focused on growing Fuel Point. I think it's a blue ocean opportunity to help investors right now get these off-market opportunities because so many of them are tired of dealing with brokers and bad deals that are on the market that just don't make any sense. So it's a really great blue ocean opportunity to build that out. And also like within Fuel Point, we're building out a community of like elite investors and operators. So I really want to start partnering with my members of Fuel Point and start doing deals and taking down deals together and getting into some really large commercial projects is kind of where I see that leading.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really good play. And I think that, you built a tool that will allow you to make that happen. So Fuel Point's like rocket fuel to the moon, baby.
It is, man. It is.
Yeah, heck yeah. I think that's a phenomenal strategy. For anyone that's interested in that wants to learn more about Fuel Point or anything like that, where do they go to figure that out?
Yeah. So to figure that out, you would just go to www.fuelpoint.io and then you could just look on our website there. We got like a video, we got kind of like an overview of what it's all about. And if someone's super interested, they could just book a call and talk with my team about Fuel Point and see if it's a good fit.
Boom, baby. I love it. What's a resource, any books, any resource, anything you want to leave the listeners with, anything like that? You got anything for us?
Yeah. If people are interested in commercial real estate, I listen to the Best Ever Real Estate podcast. It's a really great resource where all kind of commercial operators are just going on there, just talking all about what they're doing, different asset classes. So I've been getting quite a bit of value out of that. I would say for commercial folks.
Any books that changed your life?
I'm not a huge book reader, but I listen to a lot of books on Audible.
Yeah. All entrepreneurs are like
that. Dude, right? But we're too busy, right, to sit down. Who's got the time to actually sit down?
I don't even really know how to read.
Dude, same. I gotta have someone read it to me. I really like Hormozi's $100 Million Leads book, especially for building out Fuel Point. That's been helpful to kind of learn the marketing and stuff that he's doing there. So that's a really great resource.
Boom. I love it. Appreciate it. Cody, for anyone that wants to get connected with you, follow you along, where can they find you?
Yeah. I'm on Instagram at Cody Tuma is my handle there. And you guys can hit me up with any questions or anything that you guys have at all. So
boom. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. We will definitely have you back on. We'll let you know, like I told you guys, Cody and I guarantee you we will do millions of dollars of deals together all through social media. We'll get you back on as Fuel Point continues to grow and just continue to talk about how it progresses.
Once we get off camera, I want to talk to you about doing some ground up storage stuff. So.
Yeah, we will do exactly that. All right. Thanks for coming on. And with that, we will see you on the next one, baby.